So big news this week on Takaro, and it's got to do with the US and perhaps also the Middle East, right?
That's right. America has a brand new president. Well, not brand new, but not brand new, but a new president.
And Israel as well, when we are talking about the Middle East, I think it was something that we spoke about the last time. We were hoping for a ceasefire deal, and it is really good news that Israel have agreed to a ceasefire deal with Hamas, and hopefully all that fighting and killing will actually stop in the Gaza and Palestinian region, right?
Yep. And the other big news, this is episode 30 of Takaro Kids. Yeah,
30 episodes, my God. Yeah, 30 news stories where we have broken down all the main news for the week into a 10, 12, 13-minute snippet. We hope you're liking it. Before we talk about what's up with Trump, here's the latest from Gaza, right? So as I said, Israel agreed to the ceasefire, which basically means both sides would now stop attacking each other. And when there is war or when two countries are attacking each other, obviously thousands and thousands of innocents are affected, people die. And now finally with this ceasefire, things can hopefully start rebuilding at least a little bit, right? But I've seen, in multiple articles and news stories, people returning to the Gaza Strip, they've come to a completely demolished city. So their houses are gone, their, cafes, their schools, everything just in rubble.
But this ceasefire means Israel will finally stop or pause their bombing and killing of innocent civilians, Palestinian civilians. But I think one of the most interesting things about the ceasefire deal for me is the fact that they are now agreeing to release a lot of political prisoners, right?
Yeah.
A lot of Palestinian people have been arrested by the Israeli police over the years. So now Israel has agreed to release a lot of women and children, which is great news. And on the other side, Hamas has agreed to release the Israeli hostages that they've been holding for 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
So that is also going to happen. And I think that's the most important thing, that people get to go home to their families again.
Yeah, I think it's, as I said, a ray of hope. So let's hope this ceasefire continues and, people can start rebuilding, at least the innocent people, right? But moving on westward, we have America in the spotlight. Donald J. Trump is now the 47th president of the United States. And this is the second time, which is why it's not a brand new president. I mean, he's been there, he's done that before. And he's only the second person who has been re-elected as a president after losing in between, right? So you won once, you lost, and then you get re-elected again. So he's only the second person in the US to ever be a president in that way.
And who was the first?
It's a president whose name was Grover Cleveland, and this was in 1892. So over 100 plus years, 135 plus years ago, right? So yeah, Donald J. Trump is only the second one.
Okay. That brings us to our quiz question for today. Are you ready? And should we open this up to our listeners, or are you going to try and answer this one, Kiran?
Well, we've been getting a lot of responses from our listeners for the previous quizzes, and so we've been handing out goodies. So maybe we can open this one up as well.
Okay, done. So our quiz question that will get you a chance to win a voucher, a gift voucher from us. The question is, what does the J in Donald J. Trump stand for? Fairly easy one. It's a simple Google search if you know it. Send it in to us at www.takarokids.com, or get a parent or an adult to send it in to us on our Instagram. Okay, moving on from that, a quick refresher now on Donald Trump. Now, Kiran mentioned 47th president. The previous time he was president was between 2017 and 2021. He lost the election to Joe Biden. As you know, the 46th president was Joe Biden. And he lost that election fair and square. But Trump at that time did not want to give up the seat of power. He cried foul, and he said that the Democratic Party and Joe Biden had cheated him out of his presidency. He was so upset, in fact, that he called on his supporters to do something about it. And that is what led to the infamous Capitol riots. Now, maybe you've heard of this, but if you haven't, this is what happened. Around 2,000 to 2,500 people, Trump supporters, stormed the Capitol building, which is basically it's the office, right? It's where the government sits, the leaders sit and, do their daily work. Right? It is an extremely important building in Washington, D.C. And these guys stormed it, destroyed and vandalized large parts of the building, attacked the people inside. These are senators and leaders, elected representatives, running the government.
Yeah.
And
Ministers,
attacked police officers. Yeah, it was a crazy scene because, that has never happened in the United States. So, all these guys stormed it. And Trump was egging them on. And he was, in fact, impeached for this. Kiran, do you remember that?
Yeah, in fact, he was actually the first ever US president to be impeached 2 times, not just once, but twice.
Yeah. I mean, the first time he was impeached was again, because supposedly he had some help from foreign powers to become president in the first time around. And, when there was an investigation into that, he actually told people to not cooperate and give up documents that, real evidence to show that there was foreign tampering. And the second time was because, after he lost, he actually led people into, rioting and destroying the government office, right?
But now that he's back in power, the first thing he's done is actually go out and pardon all of those 1,500 to 2,000 odd rioters and people who stormed the Capitol, right? Which is ridiculous. I mean, these were people who had been sentenced to life in jail because, it was such a serious crime and such a serious incident. And he's announced a whole bunch of executive orders in the first 2 days of him becoming president. What are some of those?
I was reading somewhere there are almost 80 executive orders that Trump has signed. Now, an executive order basically is, the president of the United States gets to write and sign orders which need to be passed without any approval required from anyone else. Right? So he doesn't need approvals, he doesn't need permissions. If he's written it and signed it, these orders go into play, right? And some of these executive orders are very interesting. I would just put it like that. For one, if you remember, Trump was always talking about something called the wall, right? And that is very, very much back in the news again. The wall was something that he wanted to build to separate America from its southern neighbor, from Mexico, to keep people out. Now, America has a huge immigrant problem. A lot of people try to get into America from other countries because, because they seek asylum, because there's lots of trouble where they are from. And so they're escaping that to come to a safer and a better future for themselves. But now he's declared a national emergency on this US-Mexico border, saying that, we will ban giving asylum to all immigrants. And we are going to build that wall again. And if required, we're even going to send the US Army to prevent people from coming in.
That's crazy, right? And in fact, also along with that, he's actually ordered the complete suspension of refugees into the US. Right? And refugees are people who are basically fleeing or running away from conflict zones, from war zones, and looking for a safe space to live in. And so there were about 1,600 odd Afghans who were cleared to resettle in America. And now suddenly that has been cancelled overnight. They don't have a future anymore in the US. They have to figure out their lives. They were trying to flee from there, but now they have to go back. In fact, he's also issued an order to basically terminate all officials in the federal government who were working in DEI. And that's diversity, equity, inclusion roles, ensuring that people who are hired without bias. And overnight, all of them have just basically received an email saying that they're going to potentially get fired. And they've locked their email access now. And I think over the course of the next week, they will all be getting their so-called pink slips, which is termination notices.
And this is a big deal in the US and for the rest of the world as well, because DEI ensures fairness on multiple levels, that people from all kinds of backgrounds, no matter what color, caste, creed you are what gender you are, you get an opportunity just as much as anyone else.
In fact, he signed an order which said that there are now only two sexes or two genders in the US, which are male and female. You cannot have anything else. And it's an official order and a document. And it basically goes against what Joe Biden had done to allow transgender people to serve in the military, to have more, again, diversity and equity and inclusion. Representation. So he has, in one swoop, kind of like taken out all of that, right?
I mean, and this is just, again, another one of many executive orders which are worrying a lot of people. The other one that he's kind of done, now Trump has never been a climate champion. We know this. And now he's gone and declared a national energy emergency, which means that America can now expand their energy production. They can continue to dig for oil and gas and go back to fossil fuels. He's also, ended rules which were put in place during Biden's time to actually make sure that we move to electric vehicles faster. To encourage use of electric vehicles and manufacture of electric vehicles and make them more available. But he's kind of removed that requirement now so that people can go back to oil and gas and fossil fuels. So it's about development at all costs, right? Whether it's digging up, these things in Alaska. That was another huge thing that Biden had done.
Yeah, that's crazy,
Protect lands, right? To protect Arctic lands. But all the drilling, it's all going to start again. And these protected reserves are going to get, be under a lot of machinery all over again.
Yeah, and there's no more protected reserves actually, right? In the Alaskan region, it's just like open for all. Whoever wants to go out and dig for whatever they want, it's possible now. And I think, like you said, growth at any cost. He's also allocated budgets for various things, right? As part of his executive orders and as part of his initiatives in the first 2 days. One is, for example, the whole TikTok controversy, which was which was the US was banning TikTok fundamentally because it's owned by the Chinese and, data security. You have a lot of personal information of US citizens, which now the Chinese have access to. And he has delayed the banning of TikTok, giving them a way to find a way to run and continue running. And this is contradictory to him wanting to also impose a 10% tariff on Chinese products. So it's all his policies, all his sort of orders, they're in contradiction very often with each other. And in fact, there's another one, which is he's basically allocated about $100 billion for artificial intelligence. So he's partnered with Oracle, with OpenAI, the guys who make ChatGPT, to basically develop artificial intelligence, the servers that's required for it, because that's one of the big concerns with growth of AI, that you need more and more servers, high power servers, which then again impact nature. And it's a huge drain on the environment in general. So so all of this, I mean, it is growth at any cost, but also very contradictory to a lot of things that he says himself.
And I mean, which is why he's also pulled America out of the Paris Climate Agreement. I mean, this is not the first time he's done this.
Yeah, that's huge. I know.
Yeah. Last time he was president, he had done the same thing. Biden said, put us back in. Now we're back out again, which means, they're no longer answerable to any of the other leaders, world leaders, when it comes to climate change and all the measures that need to be put in place, right? He's like, I'm not answering to anybody. I'm not working with anybody. And the other big organization, many of you might have heard of, the World Health Organization. They played a big role during the COVID-19 pandemic, putting in measures, making sure vaccinations and everything was reaching people. So Donald Trump says that he was not happy with the way the WHO, ran things during COVID-19. So he's basically working to withdraw the US withdraw US support from the WHO, which means no more funding, no more working with them, nothing.
Well, there's a lot of things he's unhappy with. And I think we're going to see a lot of change over the next year.
Yeah, that's for sure. He's a man of action and he's pretty much hit the ground running. I think that's what we're seeing.
We could go on and on, but as I said, we stick to between a 10 to 15 minute-ish kind of episode length, and it's been 30 episodes since we started, which is insane. It is amazing, and we love what we're doing over here, and we're really, really grateful for all of you who are tuning in. We know who you are. We get the stats every week, and it's growing week on week, so it's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all our wonderful listeners. You have been so good to us. And with your support and encouragement, we hope that someday we will reach 100 and then maybe 500, maybe 1,000. Who knows, right? So keep the support coming in, and we hope to keep informing you, educating you maybe, and even perhaps entertaining you for as long as we can.
And with that, as usual, head on over to takarokids.com to answer that quiz question and win yourself a gift voucher, or ask your parents to send us a message with the answer on Instagram. And until next week, bye-bye.
Goodbye.